Hello, my name is Arthur, and in this video we're going to make a map asset. We're going to make a tree, so just something for the environment. And we'll use Blender and GIMP to do that. So I'm going to start off, and what we'll need to start off is an image. So I have a photograph that I took of some leaves, and I'm sure a leaf image can be found if you're not into taking a picture yourself. This was just taken by scotch taping a leaf to some paper and putting the paper on a window. So that got kind of a good luminous view of the leaf. So I'm just going to rotate it until the leaf is standing upright. I'll use the small leaf of the two. Then I'll rectangle select it to crop it out. So crop to selection. Could zoom in on that a little bit and center it. We'll check that the layer has transparency. So it has an alpha channel. If it had no alpha channel, we would add one. We'll duplicate the layer. We'll go into colors, apply a threshold filter, and we'll just pull the middle slider until the whole leaf goes black. So that'll be okay. We'll use the color select tool. All of these tools are inside a tool, so you have your select tools, paint, transform. Rotate is a transform selection by color. So we'll click on the white, click on the select option. We'll grow the selection. 4 or 5 pixels would be about right. That'll shrink it in a little bit off of the edge. We'll click on and select the image layer rather than the mask layer, and Control X to cut that out. And what we'll be left with is a leaf sitting on a transparent background. So that'll work. We'll just export this. So we'll navigate to whatever working folder we're going to work in. Because this is a JPEG, the file extension will need to be changed to PNG. JPEG does not have transparency, so it has to be an image type with transparency. And that's all good. I'm pretty sure that I've done a tree demonstration before, but we'll leave the light in the camera and we'll just hide them. We're going to go into a front view, Shift A, add image as planes, navigate to our working folder, select the leaf image. Let's see, we'll rotate that 90 degrees and just to get it facing the right direction. Texture so we can see what we're looking at. Tab. We'll grab it and put the stem over top of the origin. Tab, and we can just zoom way back, grab this, and throw it over here. So in order to do this, we need to have the add-on Add Curve Sapling Tree Gen enabled. So we're going to add in a curve sapling tree gen, and we'll pick a tree here. Some of the trees are kind of big, so we'll back off a bit so we can see. F9 to call up the options dialog. And there's some presets here. Now I don't know which one would work the best, but we'll just look at a couple of them and see what we get. Let's see. That would kind of work, but it's a little bit too busy. Yeah, it's a little bit too busy. Let's see what else we have. Douglas fir. That's kind of a pine tree, so that's not really suitable for leaves. And a small maple. Again, that one's pretty busy. We could probably work with it though. It's a little bit busy, but we'll see how this one works out. And that's something to note, is this is a little experimental, so yeah, it doesn't work out perfectly every time, and the process can use a little bit of trial and error. So we'll convert that curve into a mesh. We'll tab into edit mode. We can give a material right now. So we'll start off just by giving it a brownish color. So if we select somewhere in there, pull it dark, that will turn brown. In shading, we can add in a texture node for a Musgrave texture, and we'll just feed height into normal. And if we zoom in and look at that in the textured view, let's tab into object mode so we can see a little better. What we'll do is we'll just crank on scale. And if we crank on it enough, we'll get something that's kind of like a bark-like appearance. So that'll be fine like that. Now what we're going to do is select the outside of the tree and make a vertex group. So we don't want to select too much. So we're just going to go right around the edge, just selecting tips here. And one thing that I failed to do is I should have turned on X-ray. So we'll go around that selection again. Without X-ray, I'm only selecting one side, so that's not going to work out very good. So we'll do that from a front view. We'll do it from a side view. And from a top view. And we just want to go around the outside. We don't want to select way too much because it's not going to look good. Trees have branches, and if the branches don't show, it doesn't really look like a tree. So we'll go into vertex groups and we'll assign those, and we'll just leave the group name as group. And we can tab into object mode. We'll go back to a front view. We're going to add a particle emitter. So particles. We have frame start at 1, frame end at 1. We'll just leave it at 1000 for now. We'll check mark rotation and just crank on the randomize sum. In the renders tab, we're going to select object, and we'll select the picture. If we pull up the scale, we'll see that these little cards are forming all over everything. And that's because we have to tell it what the vertex group to be on. So we'll change density to the vertex group. Now the leaves will just be on the section that we want them on. Let's go into a textured mode to get a better idea what that looks like. So we'll get that, we'll look around a bit, and we could probably stand instancing more. And maybe a little bit more. We don't need to be shy about using a lot because this isn't going to be the tree. This is going to be the image that the tree is based on. So let's get our camera and our light. We'll select the camera and we're going to move it around a bit. So let's get it onto X0. We'll ignore Y and Z. X 90 degrees, Z 0 degrees. We'll look through the camera to see what we're getting. We'll come into render settings, we'll go into cycles, film, we need transparent enabled, ambient occlusion in world settings. We'll bring this back to 1080 and then just cut this down to 50, or we could enter 540. Either way it ends in the same result. So now on Y we can come back, fill up the frame. We'll go into a top view. The scale of this doesn't matter. The only way that the scale actually matters is in terms of lighting. Scaling it smaller would make it easier to light. So we can go like that. We could come into a side view and maybe grab these lights, bring them up a bit, and we could add in a third light, rotate that so that it's facing the camera, or the tree I should say. If we come into light, bring it up maybe 400, I'm just guessing, and bring the size up a bunch. We can look through the camera, get an idea for the light. Although really I just usually go with a test render, because a test render is going to tell us more than anything. So let's render up an image. We'll see what we get out of that. And that's looking okay. It's not way too leafy. So I think we can work from that one. That should be good. Now, one thing that it would help to do, and should have already been done, is to check our camera. Now, in viewport display, we have composition guides, and if we turn on center, if the tree's centered reasonably, then it should work out good. That's centered good. So we're going to save this image. So we'll go image, save as, navigate to our working folder, tree 1. We'll just give it a simple name. That's good. Okay. We'll take this tree, we'll rotate it Z 90, and we'll render a second image, and we'll see how this works out. The tree is a little bit busy, so this may or may not work out that good. It's still an experimental idea. I've done this once before, but I think this one will work okay for the tank project. Particularly because it's not like a camera following around the player so much. So that is rendered, image, save as, tree 2. So we'll save that image. We'll close that up. We'll only do 2 images, but more images can be used and more work can be done. Like, this is a quick demonstration of concept, not exactly how this is exactly how it should be done kind of thing. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in object mode, add an image. We'll add a reference image. So we'll get tree 1. Let's get into a front view where reference images are going to work better. And we'll just pull this reference image up so that the base of it is on the origin. So more or less like that. Then we're going to shift add a plane, F9, We'll rotate the plane on 90 degrees on X. We can go into wireframe because it's a reference image. It's not going to follow us into wireframe. We'll scale this. So we'll kind of start like that. And we'll leave it a little bit big. It won't really matter that much. One, its origin is where it's centered is the most important. So something like that. We can start extruding this. And I'm not sure what's going on there. It's just doing whatever it wants. Oh, I know what I did. We gotta undo that extrusion. We're just making a flat surface. I extruded all 4 vertices, just the top is supposed to be extruded. So we can extrude that, pull it up, and scale it. Extrude, pull it up, and scale it. And sometimes we'll need to go back, and we just want to cover the tree. It doesn't need to be perfect. But if a person wants to, they can do more work to make it nicer and less of a round thing. So again, this is a quick demonstration. So can be subject to change. If that's what if a person wants to do a lot more modeling around the tree, that's going to work too. But the more we model, the more faces we have, and the less low poly it is. And this is supposed to be really low poly. So we'll extrude it and extrude, and we're just making something that we can UV wrap. Is basically all that we're doing here. And we'll extrude that up one more time, scale it down. And that will be one image. So we'll go into UV editing, look at it from a front view, select all. If we zoom in, it will tend to work better because we're just going to use project from view. So we'll see how that projects like that. We'll zoom in one more and project from view. And then we'll try the image on top of it. So we'll put in tree 1, select all, grab. Now we don't want to move our viewport. We don't want to move this viewport around because we're going to use project from view for the second image. So we'll just go right back into modeling. We'll take this empty. We can delete it now. Hide the plane. So we'll hide that one, Shift A. Well, we have to tab into object mode, Shift A. Image, reference, tree 2. We'll pull that one up. We want its trunk more or less on the ground around where the cursor is. Shift A, we'll add in a second plane. F9, rotate X 90 degrees. Tab, scale. We'll pull that up. Something like that. We'll grab the top of that. We'll extrude it and scale it. And extrude it and scale it. And slide it around so the next extrusion is more likely to work. Scale it. Extrude. Scale. A little too close to the center of that to scale it well. You're too close to the median. Scaling gets all jumpy and it's imprecise, it changes the rate of scaling. just go like that and then come up. You can get up a lot of the way here now. And grab that over a bit. We probably come right up with that. It's not actually going to matter, like, the shape of this doesn't matter that much. So again, UV editing, select all, project from view, so UV, project from view, and we'll select all and grab, and I think I buggered up the first one, so that's going to prove to be a little bit unfortunate, and I'll have to fix it. So we need to add a material, unless I did this. I don't remember if I did this. New, image texture, we'll load in tree 2, and that's what we get out of that. And I just don't remember if I did that to plane 1. So let's tab, let's select plane 1 and tab. Let's we don't actually have to do anything to it because it's already mapped. So all we have to do is give it the image texture, and it was tree 1. So that should straighten that out and make everything work okay. So from here, we can go back into modeling, and there's a number of options, like how many sides we put on our tree. Right now, we'll rotate this one by 90 degrees, and we'll just look at that from this point of view. Let's get rid of the second empty because it's going to confuse us as to what we're seeing here, and go into a mode, and that's what we have so far. So we can tab into object mode. We can call that our tree, and it takes on a little bit of oddness being this way. Control J to join them. We can tab into object mode, and we do have the option to go one step further to shift duplicate, rotate 45 degrees, and make our tree like that. But because the tree is so busy, that might come across as a little bit odd. Let's just give it a try though and see how this one works out. So we're going to Control C, we're going to copy that. I'm going to open up a second instance of Blender and get my maps blend. And as you can see, I've already done a practice tree here. We'll just delete that because I wasn't satisfied with it. We'll Control V, paste this tree in there, scale it down so it matches up with the tank, and is a little bit big. Now we'll go into Object, Apply, Rotation and Scale, File, Export, whichever is the preferred format. I have a file for trees. We'll go tree 1, and I intended to capitalize that. Include selected objects only, otherwise we'll export the whole map into the folder. And we'll have a look at what that looks like. Let's go to the import settings. We can import this as a static body, which is what it's going to end up as. So let's do that. Open anyways. Now, as a static body, we're going to give it a collision shape, but we're just going to give it a little collision shape because of the nature of the game. The only way that things really are going to run into it is at their base, is at its base. So we don't need to put a collision shape around the whole thing. We just need enough to go, oh, you ran into a tree. And even if they can go into the tree a little bit, that'll be fine. Now we'll click on the plane. It will have a number of surfaces, and we'll put on the flags we need to make it look good. So we'll put on a transparent flag, and we'll undo the roughness, which will set it to 1. Then click on it again to get to surface 2 and do the same thing. Flags, transparent, roughness. And that's what we get. Maybe it's a little bit busy because the tree is a little bit busy, and that's what I meant by the tree is a little bit busy. So there's an awful lot of branches in it, but really it doesn't look that bad. This is what it looks like when you're too lean on branches, and I considered that to be an unacceptable result. But this result isn't that bad, and yeah, we'll save this and we'll see what it looks like on the map. So we're in the trees folder. We'll just save it as a scene. I don't know what that's about. We can just close that. We'll put the tree scene in here. Let's get to a top view and kind of pull that in front of the camera so we can see it good and close. And we could duplicate it as well. Let's get the move tool to make duplications easier to move. Why is that not grabbing? That should just grab, shouldn't it? So yeah, they're difficult to see from certain angles. So they're there, but because of their nature, they're so low poly and they disappear on certain angles that, yeah, it might not look like they're there, but they're appearing. So F6 will run that, and we'll just look around and see what those look like in the game effort. And those don't come across too bad. That's a pretty satisfactory result. And kind of gives somewhere for tanks to hide as well, which is kind of part of the idea, is to have some things on the map where you can't distinctly tell that you can't see everything, because seldom in something like this would you be able to see everything. So yeah, they're a little imperfect, and it works a little bit better to put in more work, use a less busy tree, and instead of replicating the same 2 images, using 4 different images or even 8 different images with less branches in it will come across a little bit differently. So because we did this in a way that saves time, it didn't come across quite as good as it can. But it's not that bad of a result, considering these are just a number of flat surface planes with very low vertices counts. So hopefully that's useful to people, and until the next video, take care.